Hello there, everybody.
Hey, Alan, take us away.
Hello there, everybody. My name is Alan Blumkin. This is Golenbock University on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Our guests tonight are former Major League pitcher and best-selling author John DeCisto, historian and writer David Nemec, and the professor, Theo Golenbock. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well, thank you.
Hi, Alan. How you doing?
Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about owners. Let me start this off. There was an excellent documentary that I DVR'd off the MLB network, and I watched on the Oakland A's dynasty in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie Finley put together a great team. But, of course, he wrecked it because his refusal to deal with free agency and the fact that he was not the player's favorite owner. Every player they had on, they had most of the core of that team on there. We're talking about what an SOB Finley was.
Mm-hmm.
But he did know talent, and he did put together a team that won 3 straight World Series and might have gone further had he not had free agency and the Catfish Hunter contract problem not come up.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, he really sabotaged the whole thing when he started unloading guys like Joe Rudy, and like I had almost a giveaway with the Red Sox, if I'm not mistaken, right after free agency.
Joe Rudy was one of those people who was let free after the McNally, the free agency was declared.
Mr. McNally,
right,
all those guys.
Right, and as a result of Marvin Miller defeating the Bowie Kuhn commissioner, the ruling was that the reserve clause, which was started in 1876 and ended, oddly enough, in 1976.
Actually, it's 1870, before the 1880 season. 1880 was
I think a couple of them were a couple of players were. It started out that Al Spalding
they can only reserve five or six.
Five or six. At any rate, the point being that after Marvin Miller defeated the commissioner and freed everybody, Miller was smart enough to say, "Okay, we're not going to free everybody. We're going to free some of the veterans, a handful of them." And Rudy was one of that handful. Reggie Jackson was one of that handful.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, each one of those guys got $1 million or more, which certainly upended the salary structure. And Finley could not stand the fact that these players were free agents. And so he went out and he decided he would sell 2 of them. Was it 2 to the Red Sox and 1 to the Yankees?
Rudy and Fingers to the Red Sox and Blue to the Yankees.
Yeah, exactly right. And it was funny because I was working for the Bergen Record as an editor, and they called me in and said, "We want you to write this story for the front page." And I proceeded to write this story about how the sale of these players was going to totally upend Major League Baseball, and it was a whole new world. And, of course, the very next day, Bowie Kuhn voided the sale of the 3 players.
Yeah.
Totally destroyed
I remember
my
that.
story. Yes, I know it. But
he had to do it.
But that's what got... Go ahead.
The only one that was left there after 1976 was via Blue because he had signed a contract extension with Finley, which, according to what he was saying in this documentary, he later regretted.
Oh, I imagine so.
But all the rest of them left at the end of the 1976 season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody wanted to stay with Finley.
No.
Finley was just, a bad guy. He was also a very smart guy. He was a general manager as well. He put those teams together. You got to give him that. But he couldn't stand.
He had a lot of innovation.
Yeah.
Very appealing, I think. And then,
he
was on the Bill Veeck, the Bill Veeck circuit in some ways.
I was just going to say that. I was just
he
going to say
he
that.
had a mule. He had a mule that he brought to the stadium that he had people ride, his damn mule.
And he had a rabbit.
He wanted wanted yellow baseballs.
And the rabbit popped up behind home plate to furnish an umpire with a new baseball.
That's right.
That was a neat thing, I thought. That was fun.
But the yellow baseballs was one of his ideas, and I do believe he also was pushing for both the DH and the, a pinch runner, a permanent pinch runner. He had Herb Washington. He had Herb Washington, who was his runner, and he was pushing for that. And before he died, I had a conversation with Calvin Griffith, and Calvin Griffith at the time was the head of that committee, and he said that Finley had been pushing the two of them, had been pushing him to do something, and so he finally said to Finley, "You can either have the designated hitter, or you can have the designated runner. Your choice." And apparently at that point, Finley decided that he would choose the designated hitter, and that's why we have a designated hitter in baseball today.
Today? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Very
Yeah,
awesome.
I've never heard that. That's it. That is interesting.
Yeah.
John, you pitched your whole career in the National League, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what did you feel about being able to bat? How did you feel about being able to hit?
I hit 276 one year. I felt pretty good about it. And I didn't get shut out in the home run department. I got one.
Right.
You tried Dwayne Kuiper.
No.
Didn't Kuiper only hit one?
I did.
He hit
one. I tied. We talk about it every time I see him. I tied you in the home run department. But the funniest thing is, when the DH came out in '76 was right after I had arm surgery, and I was in the bullpen a lot, but I was doing well hitting the ball. And I can remember when they sent me up to pinch hit before the actual pinch hitters off the bench. And I got most of my hits pinch hitting. And it was crazy. And I look at that now today, and I could just understand why Bruce Miller was upset, or if Gary Thomason was sitting the bench, why he was upset and why he didn't get up and they put me up before them. And it was like, okay, do I have a new career here or what? If I can't pitch, I guess I'll go to the outfield. What the heck? But I always loved to hit because, being a National League pitcher, I was always in a situation when I was a starter to bunt the man over. And I thought that was a key part of baseball. Sacrifice the man over to second, get him over again to third if you have to, or put him in scoring position, at that particular stage. And I thought that was a key part of the chess game of baseball. And when they brought in the DH, it was mash, let's go for the big inning. And I just thought it was a totally different game. It did add an extra job to our guys, that were on their way out. It allowed them to play a little bit longer, and some of the superstars that we got to see for a little bit longer period of time because of it. But it does give a distinct flavor to the National League versus the American League. I think they ought to leave it that way because it's an actual identification to the American League that they have the DH. And the National League still has to play it when they go and play interleague. So what's the difference? Leave everything well enough alone. Don't change it.
Your career started, John, just about the time the DH started in the majors. What would you have thought, or what would anybody have thought at that time that, all this time would have elapsed, between DH's origin and now, and the two leagues would still be separate as to how they handled it? Did anybody have imagined that at the time?
Oh, no one can imagine it to this day. And it
is. It's almost impossible. It really is.
Yeah, it's almost an impossibility. And when you really think about it, and you sit there and you think, why hasn't this gone the uniform system go into one? And everyone says, National League just doesn't want it. Well,
that's the answer.
Who's the National League to say they don't want it when they could actually score more runs and use less of their bullpen and use their starters longer? Hello? It would benefit baseball. And
well, they're arguing that the American League should do away with it and go back to the way it used to be.
Yeah, but look at guys like David Ortiz. If he'd been in the National League, how long would he have lasted? If he'd been stuck in a pre-DH era?
No, he would have been gone. He would have been gone by now. Yeah, I mean, way before he would have been gone. Okay?
Absolutely.
Stay for another 20 years if there was a DH when he retired.
Yeah, and he did. I still love his commercial anyway. I gotta say that.
John, who'd you hit your home run off?
I could tell you exactly who it was and the game. Pittsburgh at Candlestick, San Francisco. Larry Demery, 6th inning, 0-2 pitch, throws me a fastball down the middle. My eyes got as big as silver dollars. Right center field, line drive, just clears the top of the fence, goes into the bottom of the football stands. Recky tacks around and goes bong, bong, bong. I'm running my butt off, going around to second. I see a Malfitano at third. He's got his hands up. I thought the guy caught the ball. So I start to make a turn and go back to the dugout. He goes, no, you hit a home run. So I go into my home run trot, right? So I hit third. He doesn't shake my hand. I go, this is my first home run, and my own Goomba coach isn't going to give me a shake? Geez, what's going on? I get to home. There's nobody at home plate. My bat is laying on the ground. And I use Steve Oliveris' bat because Demery throws me a fastball and breaks my bat on the second pitch. All right, to make it 0-2. I fouled it off. Come back, I go to the dugout, I get Steve Oliveris' bat, M110. Come back out, boom, home run. Come back, pick up Steve's bat, I hand it to him. He doesn't even shake my hand. They're all sitting on the bench giving me the okey doke. All right? I get the silent treatment. Oh my
you got
God,
the classic setup. Yeah,
that's classic. It was
fabulous.
Yeah.
And Bing Crosby was in the owner's box. He was there because he was part owner of the Pirates at the time, and he was there watching the game. Yeah, got me a free ticket to the Crosby clam bake that year.
Now, what was that like? What was the clam bake
awesome! Like? It was fun. You know, just getting together and getting down in Pebble Beach area and Monterey, and you know, just having a ball with all the guys, and you know, a lot of laughs and a lot of joking around and good camaraderie, and the food, everything was great, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a true experience, and you know, back in those days, you know, it was. I remember Mays called me on the phone one time. He says, Johnny, I'm sick. I can't play. Can you take my place? Oh, sure. Yeah, no problem. I'll be glad to.
Wow.
So I would go down, you know. And
who was the general manager at the time? Joe Brown?
No. It was, let's see, what year are you talking about now? 74 was Jerry Donovan. Jerry Donovan. And then Jack Schwartz had all the minor leagues, and Carl Hubble had the development. He was head of player development. And then later on after that, it was Speck Richardson.
Yeah.
And when Speck came on board, that's when I got to go. They traded me after that.
Did you get to know Carl Hubble?
Yes, very well.
Carl was like?
The individual. Carl was the one that scouted me in San Diego. He came down for the last scouting of me, and when I pitched against Patrick Henry High School in San Diego, and I threw a no-hitter. And that's in the book. The ball hits the chain link fence and sticks, and he tried to knock it out with his pipe. And my coach went up there with the fungo bat and had to knock the ball out, and he asked to have the ball. Well, after the game, I signed the ball for him. When I signed the ball, he took it back to San Francisco, and he goes, "This is our number 1 draft pick. This is what he did." And he told the story. And I got drafted number 1 by the Giants.
You know, people don't realize it. Carl Hubble was one of the greatest pitchers who ever pitched. He once struck out six batters in a row in the 1933 World Series, including Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Foxx, and a couple others.
Yeah,
in the All-Star game.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It was unbelievable.
He was by far the best National League pitcher over the entire decade of the 30s, after Dizzy Ding, busted his toe and the All got his toe
exactly.
All-Star game.
Yep.
Exactly. Hubble was tremendous. He was really tremendous.
Yeah. He had a nasty screwball.
Did he ever work with you?
Yes. In fact, he tried to teach me the screwball. I said, Hub, come on. I'm a fastball pitcher. I said, look at your hand. It's all out of shape from throwing the screwball. He goes, yeah, but you may need it later on down the line. But, he would talk to me about situation pitching. Always get him with your best pitch. Set him up for your best pitch. And I go, that makes sense. I said, so I just throw fastballs. So which one do I throw? Well, good question. Yeah, that was about how he left it. Until I came up with that slider. I got that slider working pretty good. And then he said, set him up with your slider or set him up with your fastball. Either way, if you got two good pitches, use them. And then I had a changeup and stuff like that. But he taught me how to throw a changeup a little bit. And later on, I was able to continue my career for a little lengthy period of time in the bullpen because of what he had taught me. And he was very close with my family, loved my mom and dad, and they always got together when they came to San Francisco, and Hub sat with them. And he was like a great grandfather to me, along with Charlie Fox. All that crew. They were all great to me when I was coming up as a 19-year-old kid. I was like the little boy on the team, pat his head, tell him he did a good job, But it was a fun time to be a Giant. It really was.
It sounds that way. It really
Anybody
does.
else, the Giant system, work with you on your?
Don McMahon did. Don McMahon. Donnie McMahon. He showed me how to throw the cut fastball, especially after I hurt my arm in '75. And I had a natural cutter to begin with, but then Donnie helped me fine tune it, and that was fortunately my pitch further on into my career was the cut fastball. And Don McMahon worked with me on that and my control and how to be consistent in my release point because to stop the hitters from seeing a tell that I had. And later on, Pete Rose picked it up. And then he told me about it, and which was
picked up the tell. Pete Rose picked up the tell.
Yeah, he did. He picked up my tell, and he told me. He says when you throw your curveball, your hands are low, and when you throw your fastball, your hands are high. And then I had a second one where I lifted my finger off my glove, and Pete caught me doing that, and he says, "John, stick the finger in the glove." He goes, "You're tipping your pitches again." And and I couldn't figure out why I was throwing great pitches and getting hit. It didn't make any sense. It just didn't make any sense.
I don't think people do not realize what a tremendous baseball mind Pete Rose has.
He did.
He's a genius. He's a genius.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I say that not loosely. I say that with admiration.
Absolutely.
This man studied the game. I called him the professor, like Professor Pete. The same way.
Oh
my God!
I'm not even in the same ballpark as this guy, Pete Rose.
But Pete, he was a true professor of the game of baseball.
Oh, he was. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying. He studied the game. He was a historian. I'd go to the ballpark when we go into Cincinnati. I go to the ballpark, and here's Pete coming up to me. He goes, "So you had a good game last game. Struck out 8." I go, "You reading the paper again?" He goes, "Yeah." I always read the paper about you because I have to face you coming into the ballpark. You're going to pitch the last game. He already knew the rotation. He wasn't in our clubhouse. He figured it out.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah, his head was always in the game. I don't think he ever took away in his entire career.
Yeah, I'm going to see him next Friday. He's coming to town for a dinner. He's going to be here.
You give him a big hug and a kiss for me, will you?
I will. I absolutely will.
It's too bad
I would really appreciate it.
He didn't handle the rest of his life the way he handled his his baseball knowledge and his baseball career.
He's not unhappy. He's not unhappy. He's all right.
No, he's not. He's okay. He's doing fine. He's got a good gig with Fox now. He's a happy guy. He's a happy guy.
He's going to be 76 in April.
I know, and he still looks good.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. John, did you ever have any relations with any of the Giant owners?
Any what?
Any contact with the Giant, the owners of the
Yes,
Giants?
Horace Stoneham and Bob Lurie.
Yes.
Yeah. Horace, I was real close with when I first came up. Charlie introduced me to Horace when I first came to my first spring training in 1971 in the spring. And I got to meet John Wayne and go to John Wayne's ranch, which was a real hoot because John Wayne, I idolized John Wayne. So, 'cause he was right down there in Casa Grande. And,
right.
and then when Bob Lurie and Bud Herseth bought the team, I got to get pretty close with Bob Lurie, and Bob was a great guy. Great guy.
Huh?
Now, there's one of the owners in baseball that you could actually say was a great guy and a great owner.
Yep.
Was Bob Lurie. I
Absolutely.
mean, tremendous person. And what he did for the Bay Area was unbelievable. You know, he was a true San Francisco Bay Area person that owned the Giants.
Yep.
They saved the Giants from moving, interjects Ralph Tycho. And
Toronto or St. Pete? Take your pick.
Oh yeah, Lurie was going to move them to Tampa St. Pete area.
Well, I'll tell you, I can tell you that
to
story.
come in with some money. That really helped.
Well, let me tell you why the Giants did not move to St. Petersburg, which is where they were coming. We were all ready to bring the Giants to town. Here's what happened. When Bill White played for the St. Louis Cardinals during that period, St. Petersburg was a segregated place. And, for instance, the St. Petersburg Yacht Club would invite the white players from the Cardinals for breakfast and not invite the black players. The white players could swim in the hotel swimming pool. The black players couldn't even stay in the hotel. They had to stay with black families on the south side of town. And Bill White, being the sensitive guy that he is, never, ever, ever forgot the slights. So when the time came for Lurie to sell the team, the buyer was going to be here in St. Petersburg. Bill White was the president of the National League at the time.
National League, yep.
And he said to himself, over my dead body. And he went out and he found McGowan. And even though McGowan was offering less money than we were here in St. Petersburg, McGowan bought the team from Lurie and kept the Giants in San Francisco. And it was because of Bill White.
Peter, wasn't the stadium there originally built for the White Sox? The
stadium was built for anybody who happened to show up. There were six. There were the Trop was built in 1986, and the idea was we will build it and they will come, which was if you remember Shoeless Joe, Field of Dreams. Yeah.
Peter, do you remember the Tampa Bay Salutes Major League Baseball T-shirt that came out after the move was rescinded?
I wasn't living here yet. I didn't get here until 1989 for the Senior Professional Baseball League, the Senior League. That was in 1989.
That's right. And that's when I was.
A friend of mine in St. Pete sent me the T-shirt.
That's a fabulous T-shirt.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But they built this
Peter,
thing.
Is your softball league in St. Petersburg Kids and Cubs? Is that still the name of that league?
No. My league is for players between 50 and 75. Their league is between players 75 and 100. Kids and Cubs are between 75 and 100.
Okay.
We're the half century.
My uncle spent the last few years of his life, last maybe 15 years of his life in St. Pete, and he bragged about that league. He thought that was the coolest thing.
Oh, it's wonderful ball.
Yeah.
Terrific ball. I've got a game tomorrow morning, in fact.
Whoa.
Nice.
You starting?
No. Absolutely. You kidding?
Attaboy. You're my idol, Peter.
I'm envious. I am envious.
Yeah. No, we have a 60-game schedule. We have a 60-game schedule. We keep statistics. We keep your stats. So if you're lousy, you don't play in our league because you're too embarrassed.
Yeah, really, it's going to show, isn't it?
You bet.
Oh, that's
it's what's on the back of your bubblegum card, isn't how they said it, Johnny?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You live in infamy or you live in fame. You pick your poison. You know, it's like I was with a young kid today at his parents' house, and I brought him some bubblegum cards, and he was like in awe. He's 13 years old, and he was in awe reading the back of the cards. He goes, "Was it true you really had a cousin named Lou Maroney?" And I said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, and he just passed away here last year." And he goes, "Wow, do they really put factual stuff on the back of the cards?" I go, "Yes."
Where's this kid lived? What country does this kid live in?
He's in Phoenix, but he's just getting into baseball now. He's just getting into baseball.
Well, what's taking him so long?
Well, he's not of our country here. He's from India.
Oh, so he's playing soccer. Okay, I got it. All right.
Yeah, he was playing a lot of soccer, and now he's getting into baseball. And his dad told me I was coming to the house, and he lit up like a Christmas tree. And he goes, "I've been following John. I've been reading about him, and oh my God, I want to meet him." He says, "You've already met him." It's just now he's older and now he's getting into baseball. And I said, "So what's your favorite team?" And he goes, "The Padres." And I go, "Why?" "Why?" I said, "I played for both, but I got to ask why." He goes, "I like the colorful uniforms." So I said, "They don't wear those anymore except on Thursday." It's funny.
Yeah, I learned how to do all basic math from the backs of baseball cards.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Sure. Isn't that the truth?
I
Let me ask you two experienced writers of great prolific sense. What would you pass on to, like, Peter read John's book. He thought it was terrific. What would you pass on to him, not in writing, in the industry? What would you teach Peter individually? You and John answer this. Peter, what would you teach John? A little tip to stay ahead of the writing game, given that you guys have about 30 books written between you, maybe more.
Well, I mean, most people only are interested in writing one book, and that's their autobiography.
Yep.
I mean, that's, most people are not interested in a career. You've got to be out of your mind to have a career. That's the dopiest thing in the world, to have a writing career. Nobody does that.
There's some fiction writers who have maintained that every one of their novels is autobiographical. So then some of them publish 10, 20 different novels.
like Ian Fleming, and he wrote James Bond. It was about his life,
Ian Fleming may be one of the rare exceptions. I don't know.
Well, but see, you also have to draw the line. You also have to draw the line between nonfiction and fiction. They're totally different animals.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
If you have that kind of imagination, then sure. Then
Don't you think every autobiography is largely a lot of it's fiction?
No, I do not. I absolutely
do not.
I know.
Tell me one straight autobiography that you've read, written by the actual person.
Well, the way it works is you sit and ask questions, and the person you're working with talks.
No, you're not working with anybody. You're writing it yourself. Tell me one autobiography written by the person whose name is on the cover that you feel was really a straight autobiography, not some fiction, and maybe even large.
Every single one.
Autobiography?
Autobiography, that means yourself. That means another one. I did a book with Tony Curtis, okay? And I'm trying to tell you, the way I did it with Tony is we
But I'm saying Tony Curtis, that you wrote it.
Autobiographies are written by somebody else. They're written by writers. They're not written by
No, a lot of them are written by the actual person.
Not a lot of them. Not a lot of them.
Well, not those by celebrities. Sure. Not those celebrities, but
there's a new biography coming out right before the season opens on Leo DeRocher. I assume it's going to be a slightly new biography. It's going to be slightly different from Nice Guys Finish Last.
Well, but there was another one that portrayed
Nice Guys Finish Last was Leo's story.
I know,
and that's different. I mean, I did Billy Martin.
That was.
I wrote a book with Billy Martin called Number One, where Billy Martin told from his point of view, his life. Now, when I went back to write a book called Wild, High, and Tight, which was a biography of Billy Martin, that enabled me to go back and interview 50 people who were involved with his life. So you're
with Billy Martin,
with Billy Martin's life. So you're going to have Billy died. He died in a car crash. And after that, I interviewed, 50 different people who were involved in his life. And you get an entirely different story. An autobiography is far different than a biography.
I started writing my autobiography in 1996. Back then.
Yep.
Gathering up all the notes I took from 1970 on. And I had a little green book, and I still have it in my drawer, where I'd write something down like a journal. And I'd write it and keep it if it was something funny so I could go back and remember the story. But because God blessed me with a pretty good memory, I was able to, that green book was my lifesaver. And then I wrote it all down. And after I wrote it all down, I transcribed it into Microsoft Word. And then after Microsoft Word, I gave it to David Jordan, whom you know, Peter. And David we both sat down for years and dissected the whole damn thing and made sure we got every fact right and everything was on the key, and researched every single item in that book to make sure it was above board and up to speed.
Absolutely. And it shows. And it absolutely shows.
I appreciate that, sir.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yep. You're welcome.
That makes me feel very good because I love all your stuff, both
of
you guys.
The book was so well done for a first time. Do you fall under the category, John, of those who just write your autobiography and don't go on to write anything else?
No, I got two other ones in the hamper right now. Oh yeah, I'm not going to be like Peter says a career writer, but I've got a couple more books coming out that are going to be tastefully done in the very same format, but talking about different things pertaining to baseball. A lot of guys have come out with the strike years and all that, and Peter came out with a great thing about the Senior Professional Baseball League, and I might do a follow-up to what Peter came out with about the Senior Professional Baseball League, about the party that happened for 2 years. Because that's what it was, a class reunion.
Yes, it was.
And so mine's going to be about that particular portion of it, about all the guys getting together again, managers, coaches. I mean, I played for Clete Boyer and Tony Cloninger. I played with
you were in Bradenton, right?
Yeah, that's right. I was in Bradenton, Florida. And
I know.
And I had a great time and did pretty good. In fact, I got re-signed by the Giants after that. And I didn't play for them, but, I ended up retiring because they went out and got Mark Thurman, and they were going to send me to AAA, and I said, enough. That's it. I'm done. No big leagues. I don't go.
The interesting thing was that the Senior League made one mistake, and that was that they made Curt Flood the commissioner. And that was a terrible mistake because that really insulted Major League Baseball, because Curt Flood really was the beginning of the end of the free agency period.
That's true.
And I am totally convinced that Major League Baseball decided we're not taking any of these Senior League guys and bringing them up to the Major Leagues. We had a catcher by the name of Butch Benton who played for the St. Petersburg Pelicans. And Butch was a number one draft choice for the Mets. Yes, and never quite made it. He never made it. But he had a spectacular season in the senior league, and the Cubs signed
Yeah, he
him,
did.
and never brought him up, and I thought that was disgraceful.
Yep. You know, they almost treated us like scabs, like we walked the line.
They did.
It was, and here, I was a guy that fought for all the guys in '81 and in the '81 strike, and I got signed. And probably
you got signed, but they didn't bring you up.
That's right. They brought somebody else up. And
that's
you know
right.
What? And that's why I retired, because I knew that. I knew that, Peter. And it was a direct slap in the face. Here I come back, and I'm still throwing 95, and to be in the bullpen again with the Giants, and Roger Craig flat had that contract right in front of me, and I signed it. Signed it. And Roger asked me, he says, would you throw at people? Would you throw at people, knock people down here if I asked you to do that? I said, Roger, I'd bring my wallet out to the mound in the back of my pocket, and whenever they would say, you're fined 100, I'd give them 2 and do it again.
Absolutely.
He goes, sign right here.
Absolutely.
Right here. And he goes, that's what we're missing. And it's the old school players that we want back here. And then he turned right around. I was there for 4 days in San Diego with the Giants. The last day I had my bags packed. He says, I got to send you to AAA.
Yeah, horse. Ridiculous. For what? For what reason? I know it.
Yeah, because you got Mark Thurman. Mark Thurman
you needed a little
seasoning. Right now,
and can you imagine the Giants bringing in a guy who hadn't been part of the Giants family?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If
so
all
you knew where
things
it
being
came
equal,
from.
you take the guy who's been part of it before.
I'll bet we had a dozen players who could have played in the major leagues.
Yep.
I mean, once they came to the senior league and they started playing, these guys they weren't quite as fast as they used to be in running, but they sure could field. They sure could hit.
Yep. And they were smart.
They knew the little tricks. To get by.
Steve Henderson could have played in the major leagues the next year. Could have.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody signed.
Absolutely. Yep.
Kenny Landreau, spectacular ball player. They never signed him. I mean, it was a vindictive nature of Major League Baseball at the time, and I never forget it. Yeah.
Absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. And, it was almost like they didn't want it to happen. They didn't want any fame to come to the senior league. They didn't want any fame to come to the senior league because they knew it would have been successful. And then it might take some of the steam and revenue away from Major League Baseball. And you know what? We're working together. It could have been another minor league franchise, a winter ball league.
It should have been.
It should have been.
It should have been.
Absolutely.
When the senior league started, they sent down all these reporters from New York to cover it. And when the league started, what happens when you haven't played in a while? You pull muscles. So all sorts of people had leg injuries. And what did you get? What kind of reporting did you get on the senior league? The old
bunch of broken down old guys trying to play ball. Yep.
3 weeks later, when everybody healed, it was a different game. And yet nobody came back and talked about what a spectacular league that was.
What surprised me is that the senior league from the senior league didn't spring independent leagues. I would have thought that that could have kept it going a little bit longer and might have.
But there was a reason for it. The problem was when the first season of it, they had 6 teams in the state of Florida, and they could not get national sponsors. In other words, they couldn't raise enough money to make the thing go. So the second year they decided, okay, we'll have a team in California and we'll have another team in Arizona. And what happened there, a couple of things happened. The airfare was very expensive, but worse than that, the owner of the Orlando team stole $14 million from the Detroit mob. And in the middle of the 3rd month of the first season, he disappeared. He literally disappeared. Never seen again. And the other thing that happened, we had 2 owners of the Fort Myers team, and one was a DuPont, and the other one was a cocaine addict. And one day, DuPont, discovered.
Put it out talking about owners. Maybe we can go back now.
Yeah, we could.
Well, another one was John Henry, for crying out loud. Bradenton.
Well, John Henry was a spectacular owner. He had the West Palm Beach team. He was great. He was terrific. He really was. The funny thing about that is that when I first started with the Senior League, I went down to Miami Beach to sit with all the teams to determine which team I wanted to cover. And the team I chose was the West Palm Beach Tropics because Dick
Williams.
Dick Williams was the manager. No. Earl was in Orlando.
He was the Miami coach.
Miami, yeah. Earl was in Miami, but I wanted to be with Dick Williams. They had a fabulous team. They had the great home run hitter from the Mets was their left fielder. It would have been a fine team. Unfortunately, I had written a book called Personal Fouls, which got Jim Valvano fired at North Carolina State, and so the PR director of the West Palm Beach Tropics had been a friend of Valvano's. So he went to John Henry and said, "Oh, we don't want this guy. We don't want this guy." So I went to the fellow who started the whole league, and his team was the St. Pete Pelicans. So he said, "Oh, come cover my team." And the great irony was halfway through the season, this guy who didn't want me with the West Palm Beach Tropics, we were playing a game over in West Palm, and he comes over to me and says, "What do you think? You want to switch teams and come write a book about us?" A little too late. A little too late.
Yeah, us writers tend to remember all that too.
Yes, we do.
Right. If you have the brains to write, you have the brains to remember. That's for sure.
Absolutely. There was so much politics going on in that league. It was unbelievable. But it was still fun.
It was wonderful.
Yes, it was.
I had a chance to get to know a lot of these guys. And the thing that you've got to remember was when you played prior to 1977, chances are you were not making a lot of money. And even if you were making decent money, chances are you spent it all. So there were guys in the Senior League, and they were paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, which is not a lot of money for professional ball.
Hell, I got $10,000 a month.
Yes,
I did real well.
Yes, you did fabulously.
Good money. Yeah.
You did fabulously. But some of these guys literally would have played for $500 a month. They missed the game so badly. They missed the game so badly. I mean,
Peter, that's what your book portrays, the spirit, the competitiveness that never leaves you.
Never.
Johnny and I talked off the air about him coming back from hip surgery, double hip surgery to play golf again, not because of the game of golf was so intriguing. It's the competitiveness of being a score.
Going out and kicking somebody's butt with double hip surgery. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay?
Right.
We had a reunion.
Competitiveness never leave a professional athlete.
No. We had a reunion of the Pelicans. We had a reunion of the Pelicans. The Tampa Bay Rays had a reunion for the Pelicans. They put their players in Pelican uniforms for the day. And these guys came back, and it was like we were family. Really. A baseball team is like a family. John will tell you that. And that's the other thing that is so wonderful about it. Yeah. Really. It's just...
It is a big family.
Any better.
Everyone's got their problems sometimes with Facebook and Twitter and all this. But you know what? That's how we stay in communication. All of a sudden you'll see a guy pop up that you hadn't talked to in years. All of a sudden he's back on again. Hey, how you doing? Private message me. And we start talking. Then we call each other. And, I've talked to so many guys from when I played and rekindled old friendships. And they're still the same. It's like it never stopped. It just picked up, left off. I run into guys.
Let me tell you something. They're like members of your family. They're like relatives. They are.
They're our brothers.
They absolutely are.
Yeah.
Lenny Randall was one of our players. Lenny and I still communicate almost every day.
I know.
And he's
Lenny's
in Italy.
a good guy. Yeah. Yeah, I know. He keeps bugging me to go over there. You know.
I keep telling him, send me a couple of tickets, and I'll join you.
And I'll be there. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I know it.
I'll go with you.
Sure.
Yeah, you won't pay for anything either. I'll tell you. I'll promise you that. Every place we go, my uncle was Salvo d'Acquisto. He's going to be canonized a saint by the Vatican. So you know we don't pay for anything. When I put the card down, that card never gets touched.
It's fabulous. That really is.
Isn't that fun?
Yep.
Nice.
That's a hoot.
Hey, if you guys would tell Peter, he may not know that all of you guys have shows on this network, podcast shows. Peter is doing a show with Dave Jordan on a weekly basis, a podcast. Alan Blumkin and David Nemec do a show on old-time baseball and trivia on a weekly basis. And we got a little family going here. So
basketball show.
Yep.
With Hal Bach.
We do a basketball. Yes, and plus right with Hal Bach, Alan Blumkin and I do a basketball show on Tuesdays. Yep.
We are all on the Comfortably Zone Network.
Right.
When do the rest of you work? When do the rest of you work for a living? When do the rest of you work for a living?
Well, we find a way, and I'm going to start working next week. You know, spring training starts for me, and I'm going to be pretty tied up from Monday through Sunday. You know,
John works
till the end of the year. Till the end of the
Alan
year.
is retired. Hal Bach just published a book and is kind of semi-retired. Mr. Nemec is on his way to spend time with his kids in L.A. And I'm lucky enough to deal with you guys on a regular basis. I think I've developed, because podcasting is so new, so I'm ahead of the game, the best sports, entertainment, and social commentary network on Al Gore's internets.
Well, it's also a lot better than listening to those blowhards on ESPN.
Well, anything commercial. We listen to each other. We learn so much from each other. You're all amazing.
Fascinating to me.
Well, if nobody has mentioned it, John, on these shows, you should plug your book more. Tell people where they can get your book.
Well, I do on my show quite a bit, and you can get my book at Amazon.com, and it's now out on Barnes and Noble. How about
all right? That's wonderful.
So we finally hit the big time, and it's doing well. It's doing well. It's starting to be what I call a cult novel that's starting to gain momentum. And because of guys like Peter and David, coming out, and Ralph always giving me a good bump and a plug, God bless you and thank you for liking what I did in my material. I just,
you guys are my heroes.
I can't thank you. I can't thank you more. I can't
John,
thank you
you're on
more.
a long line with the late Jim Brosnan and Jim Bouton. It seems that pitchers are more successful with these types of books than any other position.
Isn't that the truth? It really is.
The Gardner novel was written from the point of view of a pitcher. You know me, Al. That's interesting.
That was manages a form of.
You know when that was written? That was written in 1916.
Yeah, that was really a breakthrough book.
You Know Me, Al was written in 1916.
You Know Me, Al was? Really?
You Know Me,
You Know Me, Al. Yeah, and Jack.
You Know Me, Al.
Ring Lardner Jr., if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Ring Lardner.
Yeah, Ring Lardner. Yeah. Who was a friend
brilliant
of
book.
F. Scott. He was a friend of F. Scott Fitzgerald's, by the way.
Right.
Wow.
Well, there were two Ring Lardners. I think that we're talking about Ring Lardner Senior and Junior.
Ring Lardner the first.
Yeah, there's a
Ring Lardner the
junior. Yes.
Yeah.
Junior, I think, was part of the Hollywood 10 with the Redskins.
Right. Ring Lardner was the one who sat with Christy Mathewson and determined that the 1919 World Series was being fixed.
Yeah, John Snell plays him in the movie.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
Exactly right.
I also want to plug Ian Kahanovich's and Mark Weiss's show. Peter Golenbock's going to be a guest in the upcoming weeks on their podcast on this very radio network. And I also have a theory before we go off the air where that owner is that disappeared. He's at the other goalpost at Giants Stadium. That
I think that's true, yes. Yeah.
Hoff is buried at one end.
Yeah.
He's buried at the other one.
Yes, he's the cornerstone at Giant Stadium. I do recall somebody mentioned that in my family. Yes. Mm-hmm.
If they mentioned it in your family, that's fact. That's not rumor.
That's right.
All right, everybody. I'm so nice to you, now you know why I'm so nice to you, Johnny D. I don't want to wake up.
I can understand that, Ralphie. Yes.
You have to understand. All
Take
right.
care, y'all. Everybody have
Love
a great
you guys.
week.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
On behalf of
Peter, good to hear from you. David, good to hear from you. Sir, Al, good to hear from you.
Okay, everybody.
Love you all.
This was fantastic tonight.
Great time.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you again.
This is good.
Anybody out there, keep on keeping on, because we're all doing this at an advanced age, and we all have our seichel. So hang in there, and you'll get to this advanced age, and you teach your kids and your grandkids. That's what it's all about. Thank you, everybody. Catch you next week.
Good night.
All right, Ralph.
Night.